So welcome back to my channel Advanced Coaching, and I am Souvik sir. Today we will discuss about the third part of the second chapter, Nationalism in India, and that is the towards civil disobedience movement. In this part we will discuss the important points that are pertaining to the NCERT book that you are following, and I will give you mainly the important paragraphs and important topics that you should remember before going to your examination. So here you can see that in this part one portion is written here. It is written Government of India Act 1919. So what was, it might be a question, what is Government of India Act 1919? So within the Congress, some leaders were by now tired of mass struggle and want to participate in election. So Government of India Act gives permission to participate in the election to the provincial councils, and those who participated in that election will become the legislators under the provincial government, that is under the British government. This is again an important question. And now you will find there is another line, C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru formed the Swaraj Party within the Congress to argue the return of the council politics. So those who formed the Swaraj Party, it is a very important question. It comes, name the person who formed the Swaraj Party, and here is the question, answer of the question, C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru. After the collapse or abrupt end of the non-cooperation movement, then it was a big turmoil all over India, and the political condition was also not so favorable for the Indian leaders who were participating in the movement against the British government. At that time, against this background, a new Tory government in Britain constituted a statutory commission under Sir John Simon. This is also a very important topic. What was the Simon Commission and when it was launched and when it arrived in India? The statutory commission under Sir John Simon was set up by the new Tory government. What was the problem? Why did the leaders of Indian political figures, why did they oppose this Simon Commission? There was a great hue and cry about not accepting the Simon Commission. So why was that? Because the problem was that the Simon Commission did not have a single Indian member. They were all British. So it was the reason why the Simon Commission was not accepted by the political leaders of India. And even when the Simon Commission came to India, it was greeted with the slogan, "Go back Simon." All the parties, Congress, all the parties like Congress, Muslim League participated in the demonstration. Just at that time, Lord Irwin announced October 1929 the dominion status for India to an unspecified future, and the Round Table Conference was being organized to discuss the future constitution. This was the status. Dominion status means everything will be in the same as it was before, and this was not accepted by the radical Congress leaders of India. What did they do then? Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose become more assertive. The liberals, the moderates were proposing a constitutional system, and in the Lahore session, again an important point for your map pointing, December 29, under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru, the Lahore session started, and it formalized the demand of Purna Swaraj, full independence. So these are the important topics that you have to mark and you have to read before exam. It was declared that 26th of January 1930 would be celebrated as the Independence Day, when people will take their pledge to struggle against the complete independence. Everyone will take the pledge that they will fight for the complete independence or Purna Swaraj. And in this regard, Mahatma Gandhi had to find a way to relate the abstract idea of freedom into a more concrete issue of everyday life. It was the work of Mahatma Gandhi to relate these two things. And then is again important topic, the Salt March and the Civil Disobedience Movement. The Salt March which initiated the Civil Disobedience Movement. On 31st January 1930, Mahatma Gandhi sent a letter to Viceroy Irwin with 11 demands. Very important. Why did he send this letter? The idea was to make the demand wide ranging so that all classes within the Indian society could identify with them and everyone could be brought under the united campaign that once he had already started and he did regarding the non-cooperation and Khilafat movement. As you know, the British at that time imposed salt tax. What was salt tax? If anyone buys salt, anyone, it might be poor people, it might be rich people, they have to pay tax on the salt. And this was the thing that was used in every household. So the British wanted to tax the people starting from poor to the rich from their kitchen. And this was not being tolerated by the leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and all the leaders who participated in the civil disobedience movement. And now I will discuss the Salt March in details. If Gandhiji wrote in the letter, gave the ultimatum, if the demands are not fulfilled by 11th March, then he will start the civil disobedience movement. And Irwin, as you know, they are the British people, they did not negotiate. And Gandhiji started the famous Salt March, accompanied by 78 of his trusted volunteers. The march was over 240 miles from Gandhiji's ashram at Sabarmati to Gujarat coastal town of Dandi. The volunteers walked 24 days, means 10 kilometers, 10 miles per day. Thousands came to hear Mahatma Gandhi where he stopped at night and he told them where he meant to Swaraj and urged them to peacefully defy the British and not to follow the laws and not to support the British people and to break the salt law. On 6th of April, he reached Dandi and ceremonially violated the law of manufacturing salt by boiling seawater. So this is in details what was Salt March, and it is one of the most important topic of this year. So please go through this topic thoroughly. I have tried to give you in-depth details of the chapter so that it would be very easy for you to see my videos and be acquainted with the topic so that you can do good in your half yearly as well as in your board examinations. And this chapter is very important. So please share my video, and if you have not subscribed, please do subscribe my channel so that you can get many more informative videos in days to come. So back to the topic. This marked the beginning of the civil disobedience movement, and the people were now asked not only to refuse cooperation, they were, at first it was non-cooperation, they had to refuse the cooperation, but they had done in 1921 and 22 during the non-cooperation Khilafat movement, but now they were urged to start the entire of the demonstration in a bigger way. So as I was discussing that the civil disobedience movement here the people were asked to be much more aggressive. And as the movement spread, you can see here, as the movement spread, foreign clothes were boycotted, liquor shops were picketed, peasants refused to pay revenue and chowkidari tax, villages officials resigned in many places, forest people violated forest law going to reserve forest to collect good woods and graze cattle. So this is how the civil disobedience movement started, and it was much more aggressive than the non-cooperation and Khilafat movement. Now, there is another part where the Congress leaders were being arrested by the colonial government, and it led to violent clashes. You can see in the picture also. It led to violent clashes where Abdul Ghaffur Khan was being arrested, and angry crowds demonstrated in the streets of Peshawar facing armored cars and bullets, and many people were killed. The frightened government, that is the British government, responded with the policy of brutal repression. They were frightened by the aggressive movement by the Indians, and about 1 lakh people were arrested. Mahatma Gandhi once again decided to call off the movement because it was becoming very violent, and into a pact with Irvin, that is called the Irvin Pact. It was held on 5th of March 1931, where Gandhi-Irvin Pact was signed in the Round Table Conference, where this conference was first boycotted by the Congress, but later they participated, and Gandhiji went there in London, and he thought after he would return back, everything would be in a normalcy, but it didn't happen. Back in India, he discovered that the government had begun a new cycle of repression. Ghaffar Khan, Jawaharlal Nehru were both jailed. Congress had been declared illegal. Look, the British people had two mouths. They used to talk in front in another way, and when you are not there, they were to act in another way. And that was the problem, that the Indians could not assess these British people. And Gandhiji, when he returned from London after signing the Irvin Pact, he was terrified seeing the situation in India, and he wanted to relaunch the civil disobedience movement. And when Mahatma Gandhi relaunched the civil disobedience movement, it did not last for long. And by 1934, the civil disobedience movement lost its momentum. The British wanted that, and it was successful, and they were successful in curbing the civil disobedience movement. Here also we'll come to see that different people of different sector of the society accepted the civil disobedience movement in a different way, like the non-cooperation movement. In the countryside, rich peasants like Patidars of Gujarat and Jats and Uttar Pradesh were active in this movement initially. As their cash income disappeared, they found impossible to pay the government revenue in demand. During the time of depression, they thought that if they joined the civil disobedience movement, then they would not have to give the tax to the colonial government. And they wanted to join the movement just for that, because they were running short of money because of the depression. Their business was hard hit, and since they did not have any profit, they could not pay. So they joined the civil disobedience movement. But when the civil disobedience movement was suddenly called off, they were disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931 without the revenue rates being revised, tax being revised. So they did not join when the British altered the Irvin Pact and Gandhiji relaunched the civil disobedience movement. Next is the poor peasantry. How did they react? The poor peasantry were not just interested in lowering the revenue demand, but many of them were small tenants cultivating on rented lands. So they did not want to pay rent of the land to the landlords or zamindars appointed by the colonial government. And they also knew that if this civil disobedience movement starts in a good way, they won't have to pay the land tax. Apprehensive of raising issues that might upset the rich peasants and landlords, Congress was unwilling to support no rent campaign. So the relationship between the poor peasants and the Congress remained uncertain in this stage, because Congress was much more interested in to get rents, revenues for the from the rich peasants. So they did not support the poor peasants. Then the big businessmen, what did they do? To organize business interests, the big businessmen, they formed an Indian Industrial Commercial Congress in 1920 and the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce of Industries FICCI in 1927. Prominent industrialists like Purushottam Das, Thakur Das, G.D. Birla, they attacked the colonial government over the Indian economy supported by the civil disobedience movement. They thought if they support the civil disobedience movement, then the colonial restrictions of the business will be removed and will no longer exist. But here also, the sudden and abrupt closure of the civil disobedience movement, they were upset. And these people also did not join the civil disobedience movement when it was relaunched again. After the failure of the Roundtable Conference, when Mahatma Gandhi wanted to relaunch the civil disobedience movement, then it was again a breakdown and none of the big houses joined the civil disobedience movement for the second time. In this page, students, you will find many important dates. Some of the important dates. You have to follow all of these. These are the very important dates that you have to remember. And I think I have in depth as of now in this part tried to make you understand which are the important topics that you have to study for your exam. Another important feature of the civil disobedience movement was the large scale participation of women. Very important. During the Salt March, you would see many women participated, like Sarojini Naidu, and many women who participated in this campaign where they picketed the foreign liquor shop, they picketed the liquor shop, they burned the foreign clothes in bonfire, moved by Gandhiji's call, and Gandhiji was convinced that it was the duty of the woman to look after the home and hearth, be good mothers and good wives, and also be good citizens for the country of India. And for a long time, the Congress was very reluctant to allow women to hold any position and authority within the organization, and it was keen only on their symbolic presence. So, this topic is well discussed. We'll come to the limitations of the civil disobedience movement. What were the limitations? The main limitations were at that time there was a group was divided into untouchables, and for a long time Congress had ignored Dalits for fear of offending the Sanatanis and conservative high caste Hindus. But Mahatma Gandhi declared Swaraj would not come for the 100 years if untouchability is not eliminated. He called untouchables the Harijans. Harijans mean children of God. Organized by the Satyagraha to secure them entry into temples and access public wells, tank, roads and schools. It was Gandhiji who told these Harijans who wanted that untouchability should be totally removed from the country, and he called those untouchables as Harijans, the children of God. He himself cleaned toilets, dignified the work of Bhangi, and persuaded upper class and upper caste people to change their heart and give up the sin of untouchability. He requested them to try to give up the sin of untouchability. Everyone are brothers and sisters of India. And he told that Dalit participation in the civil disobedience movement was necessary to make our country freedom from the colonial rule. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who organized the Dalit into depressed class association in 1930, had a clash with Mahatma Gandhi in the second roundtable conference, demanding separate electorates of the Dalits so that people could represent Dalit and they could come out with the problems of the Dalit people. He believed that separate electorates for Dalit would slow down the process of integration in the society. Ambedkar ultimately accepted Gandhiji's position, and the result was the Pune Pact in 1932 September. What was Pune Pact? It gave depressed class, later known as the scheduled caste, reserved seats in the provincial and central legislative council, but they were to be voted by the general electorate. The Dalit movement, however, continued to be oppressive, and Congress-led national movement. Dalit movement also started simultaneously. In this juncture, some Muslim political organizations in India were also lukewarm in their response to the civil disobedience movement. After the decline of the non-cooperation and Khilafat movement, a large section of the Muslims felt alienated. That means they thought that they were being discriminated by the Congress. From the mid-1920s, the Congress came to be more visibly associated with open Hindu religious nationalist groups rather than the Muslims. They were more close towards the Hindus, and this made some of the Muslim leaders think that they were being alienated by the Congress. And that was also a big limitation of the civil disobedience movement. The Congress and the Muslim League made efforts to reorganize the alliance. In 1927, it appeared that such a unity could be forged. Important difference were over question of representation, and that were to be elected. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, one of the leader of Muslim League at this time, was willing to give up the demand of separate electorate, and he demanded that there should be a separate electorate for the Muslims, and as a result, the Central Assembly and representation portion of Muslims dominated province of Bengal and Punjab were being separated. All-party conference in 1928 disappeared when M.R. Jaikar of Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed the effort of the compromise. And as a result, this was again a major setback to the civil disobedience movement, where a difference of class and caste came into the forefront. So, the informations that I have shared with you, students, are pertaining to the NCERT book, and you should follow the important points that I have discussed in this session, and I am sure that it will certainly help you to understand the chapter, and I will be very happy if you comment or give me some suggestion how to come out with different questions and important notes for you, so that it may again be very beneficial. Please, those who have not yet subscribed my channel, please do subscribe my channel, and also you will find the link of my Telegram channel. Please go and join the channel, and for your personal queries also, I will answer you about any doubts that you have. Please join the channel. The link is given in the description. and you will find the link there and join the channel immediately. The next part I will come out so that I will come with the video so that it will be very beneficial to you also to study the entire of this chapter and help you very much in your days to come. Thank you very much.